Alzheimer's is obviously a very horrible thing, but how much do you really know about it? I figured I knew so much about this disease since it had become such a big part of my life. When I first heard about this project, I had absolutely no idea what to do for my topic. I thought to myself, what is something I really care about but didn't know that much about? Obviously, I thought of this topic, but realized that I already knew everything about Alzheimer's. And then I realized I knew nothing about it. This horrible disease had had such an impact on my life, yet I still knew next to nothing about it. In that 66 seconds, someone's life was just turned upside down. That person, in that 66 seconds, found out that they had Alzheimer's. Every 66 seconds, someone is diagnosed with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia. Both my grandma and my granddad have Alzheimer's. And I can tell you firsthand, well, almost firsthand, how horrible Alzheimer's really is. Every day I see my grandma find out one more thing she can no longer do, one more thing she doesn't remember but wants to. I have found that both my grandparents handle it differently. My grandma is constantly fighting against the disease, fighting to remember everything. She is so distraught and can feel herself wearing down. My granddad, on the other hand, seems happy and content about the whole situation. He's at peace with where he's at. So what is Alzheimer's disease? Alzheimer's disease is the slow and fatal disease of the brain. This disease affects over 1 in 10 people over the age of 65. No one is immune to this disease. This disease comes on naturally as two abnormal protein fragments called plaques and tangles accumulate in the brain and kill brain cells. They start right here, in the hippocampus, the part of the brain where memories are first formed. Over many years' time, the plaques and tangles slowly destroy the hippocampus, and it becomes harder and harder to form new memories. Simple recollections from a few hours or days ago that the rest of us may take for granted are just not there. After that, the plaques and tangles spread to different regions of the brain, killing cells and compromising function wherever we go. This spreading around is what causes the different stages of Alzheimer's. From the hippocampus, the disease spreads to the region of the brain where language is processed. When this happens, it gets tougher and tougher to find the right word. Next, the disease creeps towards the front of the brain, where logical thought takes place. Very gradually, the person begins to lose the ability to solve problems, grasp concepts, and make plans. Next, the plaques and tangles invade the part of the brain where emotions are regulated. When this happens, the patient gradually loses control over moods and feelings. After that, the disease moves to where the brain makes sense of things it sees, hears, and smells. In this stage, Alzheimer's wreaks havoc on a person's senses and can spark hallucinations. Eventually, these plaques and tangles erase a person's most precious and dearest memories, which are stored here, in the back of the brain. Near the end of the disease, it compromises a person's balance and coordination. And, in the very last stage, it destroys the part of the brain that regulates breathing and the heart. This progression from mild forgetting to death is slow and steady and takes place over an average of 8 to 10 years. It is relentless and, for now, uncurable. Helping your friends, family, and neighbors to better understand Alzheimer's will reduce stigma and improve care, and could even help fight for a cure. So I just read over my facts a couple of times during research, and I realized, good, now I know everything, right? Wrong. I realized even then I had just barely scratched the surface of the disease. To dig a little bit deeper than the basics, I talked to Warda Saeed, the clinical research coordinator for Alexian Brothers Neuroscience Unit. She helped me to better understand the more complex side of Alzheimer's. Everything following this is from my interview with Warda Saeed. In terms of a cure, scientists have found something that will greatly help the search for a cure. In your genetic makeup, there are these things that are called alleles. These alleles are what determine if you actually get Alzheimer's. There are two different types of alleles, though, long and short alleles. If you have two long alleles, you usually don't get the disease, and if you have two short alleles, you will get the disease. And if you have one long allele and one short allele, you have a 50% chance of getting Alzheimer's. Scientists know that the people with short alleles get Alzheimer's, but then they started finding these people with two short ones who didn't get Alzheimer's. It turned out that these people had protein in their body that destroyed the plaques and tangles. These plaques and tangles are made out of dead neurons. This protein could help Alzheimer's victims from losing any more neurons. It wouldn't reverse the disease, but it would at least stop Alzheimer's from getting any worse. As I talked about before, I have two grandparents with the disease, and they both act very differently. I learned that this disease manifests differently in everyone. As we already knew, Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain and is caused by neurons dying. Well, as neurons die, neuron after neuron, that area of the brain starts to die. Most times the disease starts in the same place and takes the same route, but in some cases, the direction and way it progresses is different, causing the amygdala to die and become inactive sooner. The amygdala is the area of the brain that triggers anxiety and fight or flight. Being educated on Alzheimer's is only beneficial. Bringing awareness to the severity of the disease is one of the biggest things we can do. So thank you for doing your part.